Mary Annie here. Welcome back to Tarot Together. In one of the last videos regarding the Fool's card. The Fool, here and now. What do we do when we come to the end of the Fool's story, as we have been collecting and categorizing information, the formal information that is part of the symbolism of the card as intended, and there where that took us, what we stumbled upon in our researches and what began to feel true for us, the attributes we then collected. Everything then lives in the here and now. The here and now is our response to the card when we pull it in a single card draw, or whether it is in a spread with other cards. It's what comes to our mind, what we remember when we see the card in front of us. We're not going to remember all those details that we had within every category we assigned to the card, but we make an attempt to remember our categories. The reason we try and do it that way is those categories are going to expand. Some of them are going to become the more powerful meanings of the card for us over time, which happens through repetition in what the card tells us as we use it. So it's the power of words in that sense, that those categories we have given the card's wisdom hold. I know when I pick up the Fool's card what my categories are. I know that to me the wisdom involves innocence, beginning and beginning again, the journey, change, acceptance, the Godhead, spiritual evolution, and that glorious experience, the fringe experience of dancing on the edge. All the words I used to describe that when I shared each of those things with you in their individual videos, they're behind that. And they show up when I remember them, when they matter the most, and as they change and grow over my experiences of working with the card. Being able to say, to capture the categories you have ascribed to the card means you'll know what changes and shifts over time, what you'll learn of the card by working with it for yourself and in readings for others. I spend time when I first end the study with a particular card every day, spending time with a particular category and then moving on to the next. I like to see what the day tells me about that. I might feel I need to stay with it longer than a day, that there's lessons I'm unearthing about that wisdom as days go by. Words are important when it comes to the power of the card, because they are a summary of meaning, of something deeper than just words. I also, at the end of my formal collection of information, by the way, which never ends, but in the moment, I'm focusing on the next stage in my learning of the card, I like to create a card for myself, looking for imagery that represents the condensed meaning of the card for me. Here's the card I created for myself, for the Fool. What was important for me was to capture the wide open expanse of the sky, to capture the positioning of the sun, the spiritual sun, as in the Rider-Waite deck. And I captured the essence of the butterfly as the image, the singular image that I use, representing the Fool to me. Endless possibility and transformation and beginning again, birth and death. The full range and experience of living. Words matter. Maybe not all those words we've been so busy capturing, although there is never a reason why we can't go back to that, to look at it, to revisit it, to add to it, to see what's been repeating as a wisdom you're learning from the card, or wisdom you're sharing with others from the card. Words do matter, as does getting it down to the simplest words, the fewest words possible, to capture in a condensed way the meaning of the card for you. Regarding the power of words, a lesson in perhaps how we can apply each of the cards to the here and now, I want to share with you some reading from Alexander Jodorowsky's book on the tarot. His book is The Way of the Tarot. It's about the Tarot de Marseille. But in his book, which I highly recommend to you, he has a section where, for instance, in the Fool section, it's entitled, If the Fool Spoke. That's one of the ways to be spending time with the card after this formalized categorization, encyclopedic study of the card. What if the Fool spoke? What if you spoke as the Fool? This from Alejandro Jodorowsky's book. Did you know that transformation of consciousness is possible at any moment? That you can suddenly change the perception you have of yourself? People sometimes imagine that taking action means triumphing over the other. What a mistake. If you wish to act in the world, you must explode that perception of the ego that has been imposed and embedded since childhood, and which refuses to change. Expand your boundaries endlessly and without cease. Go into a trance. Let yourself be possessed by a more powerful mind than your own, an impersonal energy. It's not a question of losing consciousness, but of allowing the original sacred madness already within you to speak. Stop being your own witness. Stop observing yourself. Be an actor in the pure state, an entity in action. Your memory will cease to record facts, actions, uttered words. You'll lose all notion of time. Until now you've been living on the Isle of Reason, neglecting the other living forces and other energies. The landscape is expanding. Become one with the ocean of the unconscious. You will then know a state of superconsciousness in which there'll be no missed action or accident. Space will no longer be a concept. You will become space. You'll have no concept of time. You'll become the phenomenon as it happens. In this state of extreme presence, every gesture, every action are perfect. You cannot fool yourself. There's no plan or intention. There's only one pure action in the eternal present. Do not be afraid of freeing the instinct, no matter how primitive. Going beyond the rational does not mean denying the mental force. Be open to the poetry of intuition, to flashes of telepathy, to voices that do not belong to you, words that come to you from another dimension. Watch them join to the infinite extent of your feelings and to the inexhaustible creative force conferred upon you. Poetry and words, words of power and emotion and feeling, words that are outside of those oh so careful categorizings that were part of our study of the Fool. If you looked to the categories that you have selected for the Fool, could you then write something like Alejandro did? What if your fool spoke? Your thoughts on how you take the next step after that formal collection of information ends, and where you take that information, how you live with it, how you bring it into your life, let it transform you, experience it, share it with others, are welcome below and on our Facebook group.